There was once a samurai named Hiroki who could not focus. This might seem impossible. How could a warrior whose life depended on split-second decisions struggle with distraction? But Hiroki's problem was not lack of skill. He had trained for 20 years. He knew every sword technique. He could strike faster than men half his age. Yet in battle, his mind betrayed him. During a skirmish, while facing an enemy, a thought would appear. What if I miss? Then another. My last strike was too slow. Another. Everyone is watching. His sword would hesitate for just a moment. In combat, a moment is everything. Hiroki survived his battles, but barely. His opponents were not more skilled. They were simply more present. One evening, defeated and ashamed, Hiroki visited an old monk who had trained warriors for decades. I cannot quiet my mind, Hiroki confessed. The harder I try to focus, the more thoughts arise. I think about my technique while I fight. I worry about outcomes. I replay mistakes. How did the great swordsman achieve such complete focus? The monk looked at him and said something that changed everything. The greatest swordsman never tried to focus at all. This answer made no sense to Hiroki. Everything he had been taught said focus required effort, concentration, will. But the monk continued, "Come back tomorrow, and I will show you what they understood." Now consider your own life. You sit down to work on something important. Immediately, your mind offers you a dozen other thoughts. Check your phone. Remember that conversation. Worry about tomorrow. The task in front of you feels impossible, not because it is difficult, but because your mind will not stay with it. You have trained yourself, without meaning to, in the art of distraction. Just like Hiroki, you have skill. You have knowledge. What you lack is the method the samurai discovered to let focus arise naturally, without force. The next morning, Hiroki returned to the monk. "Show me this method," he demanded. The monk handed him a cup of water, filled to the very brim. "Carry this across the room without spilling a drop." Hiroki took the cup carefully. He focused intensely on keeping it steady. He watched the water with complete concentration. Do not spill. Do not spill. Do not spill. The thought repeated in his mind. His hand began to shake from the tension. Water sloshed. He had spilled before reaching halfway. The monk refilled the cup. Again. This time Hiroki tried to relax, but his mind kept producing instructions. Hold steady. Watch the level. Step carefully. He made it further, but still spilled. The monk said, "You are trying to control something that controls itself. Your hand knows how to hold steady. Your body knows how to walk. But your mind keeps interfering with commands and worries. This is exactly what happens in your swordsmanship." Then the monk revealed something surprising. The greatest warriors did not develop better focus. They learned to stop interfering with focus that was already there. This is where Hiroki's training had failed him, and it is where most of us fail too. We believe focus is something we create through effort. We think concentration means forcing the mind to stay put. But this misunderstands the nature of attention completely. The samurai discovered that true focus is not about trying harder. It is about trying less, but in a very specific way. The monk told Hiroki about Mushin, meaning no mind. This was not about becoming empty or blank. Mushin was the state where thinking stopped interfering with action. Takuan Soho, a Zen master who taught some of the greatest swordsmen of feudal Japan, wrote about this in letters to Yagyu Munenori, sword instructor to the shogun. Takuan explained that when a swordsman focuses on his opponent's sword, his mind stops there. When he focuses on not making a mistake, his mind freezes. When he thinks about his next technique, his mind gets stuck. But when the mind does not stop anywhere, when it flows like water, the warrior responds with perfect timing to everything that happens. Think about moments in your own life when you performed at your best. You were not thinking about performing. You were simply in the flow of action. Athletes call this being in the zone. Musicians know it as losing yourself in the music. The samurai called it Mushin. You cannot force this state. You can only allow it by removing what blocks it. What blocks Mushin? The constant commentary your mind produces. When you try to focus by thinking about focusing, you create a layer between yourself and what you are doing. The samurai trained themselves to recognize this commentary and let it pass without engagement, like clouds moving through the sky. But here is where it gets interesting. The monk taught Hiroki something that seemed to contradict Mushin. He introduced Isshin, meaning one heart or one mind. This was the practice of choosing a single point of focus and returning to it whenever the mind wandered. Hiroki was confused. First you tell me not to focus. Now you tell me to focus on one thing. Which is it? The monk smiled. Both, and neither. Listen carefully. He explained that Isshin was not about forcing attention onto something. It was about choosing an anchor that pulled your awareness back from wandering thoughts. Before battle, a samurai would decide on his anchor. This might be watching the center point of his opponent's body, where all movement originates. Or it might be the feeling of his breath, or the sensation of his feet on the ground. The key was this. The anchor was not something to think about. It was something to rest in. When thoughts arose, the warrior did not fight them. He simply returned his attention to the anchor. The anchor became like a home base. The mind could wander, but it always knew where to return. This changed everything for Hiroki. He had been trying to stop thoughts from arising. That is impossible. The mind produces thoughts constantly. That is its nature. But he did not need to stop thoughts. He needed an anchor that would gently pull him back to the present when he noticed he had drifted. In your own work, Isshin might mean choosing to return your attention to the first sentence of what you are writing, whenever you notice your mind has wandered, or the feeling of your hands on the keyboard, or the question you're trying to answer, not as something to think about constantly, but as a place to return to. The power of Isshin is that it makes distraction visible. Before, when Hiroki's mind wandered, he did not notice until several thoughts had passed. With an anchor, he noticed immediately when he had drifted away from it. This created a kind of feedback that trained his awareness. After weeks of practice, Hiroki returned with a new problem. I can hold my anchor during training, he told the monk, but in real battle, when the stakes are life or death, my mind fills with fear. I think about losing, about dying, about shaming myself. The anchor disappears. The monk nodded. Now you are ready for the deepest teaching, the one that will make sense of everything else. He introduced Hiroki to Muga, which translates to no self. This Buddhist concept held the key to performing under pressure. Muga meant releasing attachment to outcomes and an ego. It meant accepting fully that you cannot control results, only your actions in this moment. The monk told Hiroki about a famous duel between two swordsmen. The first swordsman was more skilled. Everyone knew he would win. The night before the duel, he could not sleep. He imagined the fight 100 different ways. He pictured himself victorious. He worried about making mistakes in front of the crowd. His mind was completely occupied with the outcome. The second swordsman, less skilled, slept peacefully. His friends found him and asked how he could rest when he might die tomorrow. He said, I have trained as fully as I can. Tomorrow I will fight as fully as I can. Whether I win or lose is beyond my control. Why should I lose sleep over what I cannot change? The next day, the more skilled swordsman fought with a divided mind. Part of him was fighting. Part was watching himself fight, judging, worrying, protecting his reputation. The less skilled swordsman was completely present, just fighting, nothing else. He won not because he was better, but because he was whole. This principle applies directly to the pressure you feel in your daily work. You sit down to create something important. Immediately, thoughts about outcome flood in. What if it is not good enough? What will people think? What if I fail? These thoughts do not help you work better. They only split your attention between doing and worrying about results. Practicing Muga means making a clear division in your soul's mind. Before you begin, you prepare as well as you can. You gather what you need. You clarify your intention. Then, once you begin, you let go of results completely. You focus only on what you can control. Your presence, your effort, your attention to the work itself. The outcome will be what it will be. Your job is simply to be fully here for the process. Hiroki found that when he practiced Muga, fear did not disappear, but it stopped controlling him. He could feel afraid and still act. He could notice doubt and still strike. The thoughts and emotions became like weather passing through his awareness instead of forces that commanded his behavior. There was one final piece. The monk called it Ima, simply meaning now. This principle tied everything together. Past battles and future consequences did not exist when a sword was moving toward you. Only now existed. Only this moment. Only this breath. Yagyu Munenori, one of the greatest swordsmen in Japanese history, wrote that a warrior who thinks about the strike he made 1 second ago will miss the opening available right now. A warrior who imagines what might happen in 3 seconds will fail to see what is happening now. The mind that dwells in past or future is absent from the only moment that matters. Most of us live outside of now. We replay conversations from yesterday while missing what someone is saying to us today. We rehearse speeches for next week while failing to notice what is actually happening right in front of us. We worry about problems that may never occur while ignoring the reality we are standing in. The samurai trained Ima by repeatedly bringing attention back to direct experience. Not thoughts about experience, not analysis of experience, just experience itself. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel in your body? When the mind wanders to past or future, you notice and return. This is not easy. It takes practice, but it is the foundation of everything else. Hiroki discovered that Mushin, Isshin, Muga, and Ima were not 4 separate practices. They were 4 aspects of the same thing. Mushin removed mental interference. Isshin gave him an anchor to return to. Muga freed him from the prison of outcomes. Ima kept him in the only moment where action is possible. When he brought all 4 together, something remarkable happened. He did not have to try to focus anymore. Focus emerged naturally when he stopped doing the things that scattered it. His sword moved with a quality it had never had before. Fluid, present, unhesitating. He was not thinking about his technique. He was his technique. Here's what makes this story relevant to you, beyond just an interesting historical lesson. The modern world is specifically designed to break these 4 principles. Every app, every notification, every headline works directly against Mushin, Isshin, Muga, and Ima. We have created an environment that fractures attention as its primary function. Your phone pulls you away from single-point focus dozens of times per hour. Social media trains you to care desperately about outcomes and others' opinions, the opposite of Muga. Every piece of content tries to drag your mind into past regrets or future anxieties, away from Ima. We are living in an anti-Mushin world. The samurai faced death in battle, but their daily lives were relatively simple. Few distractions, clear purposes, time for training these mental skills. You face a harder challenge in some ways. You must develop these abilities while being constantly bombarded by forces designed specifically to prevent them. But here is the surprising truth. This makes the practice more valuable, not less. The samurai developed these methods because their survival depended on it. Your effectiveness, your well-being, your ability to do meaningful work depends on it too. The stakes are different, but equally real. What Hiroki learned over months, you can begin today. You do not need to become a warrior or live in a monastery. You need to understand how your attention works and what breaks it. Then, you need to practice, in small ways, the same principles the samurai discovered. Here's how you can apply these teachings to your life, starting now. 1. Choose one task each day as your Mushin practice. 30 minutes where you remove all interruptions. Phone away, computer notifications off. Just you and one task. Notice when your mind produces commentary. Do not fight the thoughts. Simply observe them and return to the work. 2. Establish your anchor for Isshin. Before starting any focused work, decide what you will return to when your mind wanders. This could be your breath, the first question you are trying to answer, or the sensation in your hands. When you notice you have drifted, gently return to this anchor. 3. Practice Muga separation. Before beginning something important, take 2 minutes to identify what you can control and what you cannot. Write them down if it helps. Can control: my effort, my attention, my presence. Cannot control: results, other people's reactions, whether it succeeds. Commit to focusing only on what you control. 4. Train Ima by choosing 3 moments each day to be fully present. These can be ordinary moments. Drinking your morning coffee with full attention. Walking to your car while noticing everything around you. Listening to someone speak without planning your response. These are repetitions that strengthen the muscle of presence. 5. End each day by reviewing what scattered your focus. Write down 3 things that pulled you away from presence. A notification, a worry, a habit of checking something. Each thing you identify is something you can address tomorrow. This creates awareness of your patterns. The monk told Hiroki something on their last meeting that stayed with him forever. The battlefield where you train these skills does not matter. Whether you face a sword or a desk, an enemy or a project, the challenge is the same. Can you remain fully present for what is in front of you? Or will you divide yourself between being here and wishing you were somewhere else? Hiroki thought he had come to learn about focus. What he actually learned was how to be undivided, not concentrated, but whole. Not forcing his attention, but removing what scattered it. Not trying to be present, but stopping the habits that took him away from presence. The samurai stayed focused in battle because they practiced being whole. You can stay focused in your work and your life by practicing the same principles. The distractions are different. The pressure is different, but the solution is the same. Remove what scatters. Choose where to return. Release what you cannot control. Come back to now. Focus is not something you build through effort. It is something that remains when you stop doing what breaks it. The samurai understood this, not through theory, but through necessity. Every time Hiroki's mind wandered in battle, he risked his life. This gave him powerful motivation to learn. Your work may not carry life or death stakes, but it carries the weight of how you spend your one life. That is motivation enough. The principles are simple. Mushin, the mind that does not interfere. Isshin, the anchor that calls you back. Muga, the release of outcome. Ima, the return to now. Simple does not mean easy. These take practice, but every moment is a chance to practice. Every task is an opportunity to train presence. Every distraction is feedback showing you where you still have work to do. If you are ready to train your focus as the samurai did, write in the comments, "I will practice presence." Thank you for being here and for choosing to live with clarity.